Hey there, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. Before the video starts, I want to let you know that if you like it, to leave a like and a comment down below. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel and click the little bell icon to be up to date with my latest content, as well as joining the notification squad or wolfification squad like this pack legend here. Thanks for your support, and enjoy the video. Starve a curse. Feed the soul. Chapter 12. Evoking. In the large, white, tilted room, a scruffy tan coat had returned to swathing a stool. And standing next to the center marbled island table, Summer was toiling with the many palatable ingredients as usual. During her deep musing from Ben's mild acceptance of her aid, the woman had completely forgotten about her refrigerator's freezer being bare, and had to give the storm cellar and its residing giant cryptid an early revisit. She didn't need to wait for the brash, unswerving mandate for more, nor worry about running out of pails. In addition to the ones behind the basement storage freezer, and half a dozen backup buckets were stacked within the kitchen closet. Preparation was this woman's livelihood. Summer discerned Ben as he ingested the last 2 vessels of stew. Granted, he always ate with boundless enthusiasm, but his feasting was progressively becoming composed after most of the rations were licked clean. This was a positive indication in Summer's mind. Her fear of Ben's belly bursting from the never-ending hunger bullcrap was no longer a concern, because after centuries of hopelessness, the improbable result was actually ensuing. The Wendigo's insatiable hunger was beginning to be satisfied. Summer's amber orb scooted to and fro at the numerous comestible components displayed before her. She estimated that, so far, Ben had swallowed down over 300 pounds of food. She blinked firmly at the astronomical realization. Over 300 pounds. Holy shit! The woman scratched her small chin momentarily. Maybe since he grew so large from consuming Joe Brown, the beast required to eat 2 people. Furthermore, that egotistical sportsman was so lanky, he was probably an appetizer for the Wendigo. The curse must have also made the beast hungrier when his size increased from the human meal. Upset, Summer idly glanced down at her periwinkle winter slippers. Damn. It was bad enough that Ben was found as a warped, famished husk, but she still couldn't fathom for the life of her of how torturous that stretching pain must have been. Stupid fucking curse. Trying to stay motivated with the current chore of creating the 4th dinner, the woman hummed a familiar tune, pushing up her torn, bundled sweater sleeves to her shoulders. However, this wasn't the habitual huge serving of tofu chunks and potatoes. She wanted to make something that her cherished husband had always loved. Summer hoped this would somehow trigger an elapsed memory and aid his way back to her. She spread the shredded mozzarella over and under starchy folds, soy and vegetable protein, and added additional meaty sauce. As always, everything was vegan, even the cheese. For the woman's perpetual paranoia of the curse repulsing any type of animal-sourced fare remained in full swing. She wouldn't dare jeopardize all the years of her exertions. The majority of the excess pots and bowls were finally put away in the hall's crawlspace, and in their place were full casserole-deep pans displayed on the dining room table, all prepped and ready to be broiled. 4 of the vast Dutch ovens were still being put to overuse. They were simmering on the stovetop with alluring, spicy sausages. Summer had gathered them from the wide storage freezer after refilling the newly retrieved bucket a second time while Ben zestfully ate. When Summer had to do the first frozen food haul, the avaricious beast's glare bore into her as if she were stealing his pre-killed prey. But once he cognized that he would be the only one to eat his food, Ben had lessened his stares to direct glimpses as he ingested his warm feast with savage strides. With teal floral oven mitts, Summer moved towards a wide, white oven that was next to the above-cluttered, covered counter. Pulling down its door, she dipped a lengthy stir spoon in the corner of one of the half a dozen large casserole pans, resting on 3 wide-ranging racks. The steamy scent of the unusual yet enticing seasonings and her own touch of oregano and basil wafted throughout the kitchen. After the woman's exhaled breath on the spoon made it to the point that it wouldn't burn her tongue, she took a foretaste. It was quite good and rich, just like how he enjoyed it. This caused Summer's maltreated heart to flutter from the adored reminiscence of a small patio table amid a pair of high chairs, and on top of its lacy veil was a saucy casserole dish with good china and 2 wine glasses. It had been a surprise birthday dinner for Ben. The daydreaming persuaded the former widow's lips to reveal her front gap even further. She was gracing herself with more, longer, sincere smiles than she had in a decade. Summer softly clacked the oven's entry closed, then lifted a lid from one of the above crocks and faithfully stirred away. She resumed humming the little annual melody, with Posey safely in a food coma after her paws were hindered by the study's round knobs. Her heartening owner was feeling less jittery. As a matter of fact, the woman had been so attentive, she hadn't noticed that her cold spell shudders and impulse to smoke had cleared from her inner self. In the silent ambiance of the Cape House's basement, Summer arched a right, thin eyebrow at the confined Wendigo's surroundings. The 2 severely abused, empty red cylinders had been pushed away. On purpose? Was he presuming that more food would be arriving in a new bucket? Lying on his underside, with a sharp muzzle over crossed, clawed hands, Ben's eyelids were shut as he slowly breathed in a steady, sound rhythm. Summer sniffed the air. The horrid musk of roadkill that almost scorched her eyes out of their sockets wasn't as prominent as it once was. Either the air filtration required more time to kick in, or her sense of smell was finally becoming nose-blind. Summer's mouth lines tugged upwards again. Or was it perchance that Ben's nutrition was healing him? With discreet caution, the tentative woman stepped away from the newly packed bucket for a marginally better view. Not too much. Fed or not, Wendigos were still Wendigos. He wouldn't bypass an attempt at another mauling, for she highly doubted that he was indebted to her for helping him keep his life. Which made Summer question how the cryptid comprehended that she had removed the tablespoon from his throat when he was at death's door. She rubbed her temple. That itself was a whole other puzzle for her to ponder about. Although he was being inactive, which meant safer welfare for her, the single-minded woman was well aware that she just could not let sleeping dogs lie. Licking tapered lips, she backtracked a few paces and took a short breath. Ben? Summer observed the beast for a moment. No response. Not even an ear twitch. Was he actually sleeping? He hadn't reacted when she trudged down the stairwell. Or was the Wendigo shamming rest like he previously had done when he was supposed to be fully tranquilized? Excluding the horrid choke scare, Summer did not and still would not trust him. Nonetheless, seeing him so quiescent made her consider if Ben had ever slept when he wasn't hunting in the bitter, god-forsaken forest. It was common knowledge and self-experience of how hard it was to fall asleep when someone is hungry, especially starved and cold. The woman pursed her lips in contemplation. She hadn't seen Ben's body shiver when they were out in the wretched whiteout. Did Ben's body temperature even drop? Of course, touching his coarse hide was akin to burning dry ice when she transported him to her house. But when she handled him when he was suffocating from that damn rebel spoon, the beast's body was more tepid. And with the profuse matted fur, the Wendigo certainly wasn't reptilian. His gesticulations were not lagging from the icy atmosphere whatsoever. These telltale signs indicated of him being warm-blooded. So Ben had endured living in sub-zero temperatures in the North Woods. The winter-hating woman shook her head to herself. If freezing and starving out there is any way to live, she huffed heavily through her nose, winters here are so brutal. I bet even the falls are frozen solid. Feeling the space heater doing its work keeping the former wintry beast warm and dry helped Summer to refocus on her directive. Mulling over the unnerving scenario while rubbing her hidden bandaged right arm, she decided to just bring the heavy-ass pail closer. Besides being out of mind, the woman was out of ideas with deceiving the deceiver, who often threw back the deceit tenfold. The overfed covetous cryptid's actions may have been getting loggy, but his inhuman psyche was still as sly as a fox. For a change of pace, Summer's rubber-trimmed slippers remained casing over her cotton black socks. After the last pounce attack, Summer just knew that Ben now knew whenever she removed her slippers, she was going to come in closer range. For God only knows if an albino eye had peeped from those damned acute ears, and alerted him about the cellar's acoustic-proof door being reopened. Elevating the hefty bucket by the handle's grip, the grunting woman placed one foot down and paused, staring at the abnormally alert Wendigo. Nothing. Another prolonged step. Same non-response. While Summer was moving like a juddering snail with a solid block of cement as a shell, her drubbing chest was going to detonate from the sheer amount of butterflies from full trepidation. Oh, screw it! With gritted teeth, the woman lumbered towards and plopped the pail down. With gritted teeth, the woman lumbered towards and plopped the pail in front of Ben's snout. Soon as it hit the floor, she bolted backwards to her favored, unreachable quarters, and once her head stopped feeling lightheaded from holding the weighted pail for so long, she gaped at him, anxiously. The Wendigo remained in his identical resting position. As Summer internally questioned about Ben being conscious, black nostrils flared twice. His eyes snapped open, with pupils instantly locked onto the freshly filled bucket before him. Whether the heavy eater was a light sleeper or a faker was unimportant to Summer. She waited for his response, nervously folding slender hands together as the beast sniffed intensely. With a deepened inhalation, the Wendigo respired outward with the tongue wiping his already drooling muzzle. Gradually, he rose on all fours, with a massive abdomen almost reaching the concrete. Summer figured it had to be too substantial for Ben to carry. But by the quantity of ichor splattering around him, this meal seemed to truly pique his interest. So much so that it was enough for him to bear the overweight of his overly gorged abdomen. The puzzled woman watched in disbelief, because the beast hadn't taken a nosedive to feast. He did disregard the old pair. Was he not hungry enough to chow down right away? Or, dejectedly for Summer, Ben was starting to debate on wanting her specifically prepared meal. The beast loomed over the chock-full cylinder. He took extra long snuffles of the warm blend as droplets dripped from his open maw and added to its contents. And when his head slanted slightly to the left, Summer's light eyebrows perked up within that very second. Ben wasn't procrastinating because he didn't want it. He was analyzing the food because he was evoked by it. The subtle head cant was the exact reaction after Ben's distraught wife had called out to him by name during their stalemate in the woods clearing. Yes, by no means was his distorted mentality the same. So while the spirit kept him on a tight leash, the Wendigo would never genuinely be Summer's other half. But even though Ben can't comprehend the past events behind this new recollection, his voracious primal mind remembered eating it. Summer saw the beast's ruddy, snaky tongue immerse itself into the motley mixture. At first, she thought he was just scrutinizing for buried utensils. However, his strokes had become caressing, like he was savoring the flavor and consistency of the dense, freshly enhanced edibles. After the lengthy muscular organ retreated into his maw, the beast straightened his head and licked his fangs, fervently. Despite his vastly distended stomach, he had to have his intriguing, tantalizing new meal. The Wendigo couldn't fully understand why, but he craved it, wanted it, needed it. Summer gasped in surprise, for with no further warning, Ben's profile dove into the reddish repast. And as the newfound meal was masticated with eager jaws, the woman swore she heard low, muffled moans in between. His garbled grumble sounded quite pleased. Without realizing, Summer's vision indolently drifted and caught something flittering behind the delighted devourer. Her expression gawked in utmost revelation. Ben had a tail. She hadn't seen it before because he was always squatted on his haunches to feed, but this particular buffet had made him so excited that he was arched in a quadruped stance. And it was a tiny tail, dwarfed by Ben's giant form, as it was no more than 6 inches all around. It was also the shade of his pitch-black fur, with even darker undersides matching the rims of Ben's stag ears. A lopsided smile tugged at the corner of Summer's mouth from seeing the deer-akin short appendage, wiggling elatedly. It was quite anomalous for such a huge, carnivorous cryptid to adorn a furry little nub. And yet, at the same time, it was cute. Summer had squeaked out the brief description a bit loud, for Ben partly raised his head and emitted a quizzical gruff in her direction. Raising a hand over inward-pressed lips, the woman cleared a suppressed chuckle. Sorry. Carry on with your, carrion. The beast lapped up the drippy thick sauce from his messy muzzle and returned his focus on the comestible concoction with half-lidded eyes glinting with a greedy gaze. Mine. Summer's face fell shocked while blinking wildly at the newly spoken word. Well, at least he finally changed his playlist. Ben must have figured out what mine meant when she warned him that her cat was off the menu. But why would he say it now? After a minute of pondering, the solving, understanding woman had whispered the answer. True, this 4th helping didn't trigger any recalls of his previous life. However, it still managed to evoke a glimmer of bliss in the cursed being's darkened subconscious. His fanatical wife's ghost of a genuine smile arose with her cherished, everlasting memory. Wendigo or not, Ben loved his lasagna. A long muzzle breached for air after another huge glug of the favorite food. Mine. With partly open lips curved to her cheeks, Summer bowed her head. Yours.